Test.
Now
Hello,
we
hello.
got it.
Is that coming clear enough?
Yep, we got you. We're good on that one.
All right, cool.
Sweet.
Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you wonderfully well. Where are you both?
I'm in Montana, in the U.S.
Okay.
No, I'm in Michigan.
Up in Michigan. Cool. Is it
Yeah.
warm? Is it cold?
Today's gorgeous. It's been a beautiful last few days here. It's probably in the mid 70s Fahrenheit wise.
Yeah, it's about the same here. It's nice. What's it like over there right now?
Beautiful. It's like 27 degrees or something, which is we go by Celsius.
Right.
Right.
I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's hot. Like I'm sweating. It's hot. And we've just had this most intense game of cricket, and the only way I can try and explain it to you is like if it was baseball. Imagine going into the ninth innings, and you're like 10-1 down, and you need 10 runs to win, and you've got one guy in bat who can do it, and he just goes round and hits, and that's just happened. I've never seen anything like it in my whole fucking life. I literally was shaking watching it. So sorry I did that, and then I came upstairs. I was like, oh fuck, I forgot about you guys. So sorry about that.
It's all good. Well, we started looking back to see, what part we had fucked up, right? And
No, it was me.
And the email went out. It said 6 p.m. your time, which, if I'm correct, is it 4 p.m. there right now?
It is. I think it's just 5 p.m. now.
Okay, yeah, with 4 p.m. when we were planning on getting started. So we scheduled the calendar event for the right time, but then sent the email out that said 6 p.m. your time. So we were like, he's probably waiting until 6.
No, I go by the calendar anyway. But apologies.
Yeah,
and look, I'm really sorry. This might be embarrassing. I don't know your podcast.
That's fine.
That's fine.
We just started it up. Well, I guess I'll say the story before when we start actually on the show. But we're
why don't you record it? These bits, you never know. They sometimes you get.
Oh, it's
things
recording. It's recording
right, cool.
now. Absolutely, because like you say, sometimes that's the best part. It's the most real part of the conversation, almost when you get started, right? So
yeah, I always do it from the start now because I think I like it when it doesn't start with "Hello, how are you?"
Yeah,
that's a good point. That's one thing I like about your show is that it's it seems like you kind of record your little intro bit by yourself, and then you just kind of dump the interview in afterwards, and it kind of flows nice. I do kind of like that.
That's the worst bit though.
Yeah.
When I'm doing the intro, right, that intro is like, 5 minutes, 4 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
And it takes forever to do because you write out the script and then you're trying to follow the script and you get something wrong. Say I want to talk about I don't know. Say I want to say, hi, welcome from Bedford. I've just got back off holiday. And then you make a mistake and shit. So you have to do it again and again. When you're having a conversation like this, it just goes back and forth. So it doesn't really
it's
matter.
a lot easier.
And it flows so naturally. That's that's what I enjoy most about it. So let us go ahead and do our intro, and then we'll bring you into the conversation, and I'm sure my mix master here can mix all of what we just discussed into the podcast. Absolutely.
Or do you want to
there's a crackle coming from your side.
I heard it too a couple of
there's
times.
a little bit of a crackling. It's kind of worse than you were when we were talking earlier.
What? Oh, is it?
Yeah.
From me?
Yeah. So, Peter, let me ask you this, because Mitch just got this new headset.
Yeah.
And I can hear a real high-pitched ringing when he's talking, but he can't hear it when he listens back. Can you hear that?
I can't hear. I just hear like a crackle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, it must just be like my headphones picking up on that high-pitched frequency. So,
yeah.
Do you want to try changing do you have your other headset there, Mitch?
I can go grab it. I can be right back.
Okay. Let's try that.
Give me a minute.
Cool. See if it's the headset or see if it's the connection.
So how many shows have you done?
This is number 45.
And do you do one a week or two a week or every day? Or?
We do approximately 2 to 3 a week. So we usually
a
Tuesday, a Thursday, and a weekend.
So you've been going, 4 or 5 months?
Yeah, we started on May 2nd, actually.
Right, nice.
Yeah. So
it's good fun, right?
It's crazy fun. It's just the campfire idea, the name of it came from what we wanted to do, which was just basically just sit down and bullshit around the campfire, right? So many podcasts are like yours is amazing on a technical level. You get really deep in with the people and really start kind of digging up and turning up some of those little details. And Pomp does, kind of the same thing, but in his own way, that kind of real deep technical stuff. And so we thought, well, we can kind of touch on those things, but keep it super light and just we're just all bullshitting and having a good time. And it's been a good time, man. I'm having fun.
Well, I do some like that as well, where I just
Yeah,
like shoot
definitely.
shit back and forth, and they're always my favorite. Actually, it's a
Right.
bit
It's a good mix.
like if you listen to Rogan these days, he'll talk about anything to anyone, right?
Right.
I've just started the Everlast one, and I'm half an hour in, and all they've talked about is MMA, and I'm like, I want to find out about House of Pain, but like, it's good. I mean, he just it's almost like he hangs out with his mates, has a conversation, records it, and people listen. And I think people enjoy that. I think if you want bigger reach, you've got to go a bit broader. Like, there's only so many people who want to hear about Taproot and Schnorr signatures. But if you want to hear people like shoot the shit about Bitcoin or other stuff in life, then you got to go a bit broader.
Oh yeah, it's got to reach out, and that's why, like, we had somebody on our show that had barely ever heard of Bitcoin. So we're trying to reach out to some of those people too that aren't really deeply involved in this space, because the stories are endless, and the people that you find, I mean, it's so crazy. It's just, you never. I'm always surprised every time I talk to somebody, because even the people that are really in Twitter, you get this picture of them in your head of like what they do and how they are and who they are. But when you start talking to them and they open up, it's like, you see that whole other world that you may not see otherwise.
And people are very different in life from what you picture them on Twitter.
Yes, very much so. Mitch, you got the trucker headset. How's it sounding?
Oh, I haven't got it set up on my computer yet, so one second.
I hear some whooshing in the background. I wasn't sure if that was yours or not.
I hear it.
Oceanside. that's what we'll play it off as. It's gone now. Did you get that switched over already?
No, not yet.
That's my imagination.
I hope this works, because I haven't used this headset with
Zoom.
Yeah, well, with my computer yet. I always use it with my oh god, and of course.
You sound great now.
Yeah, whatever you're doing now sounds good. What are you on?
Okay, so I'll just do it. I'll get rid of my my headset, and I'll just do it on the computer, because that's what's going on right now.
Oh, well, I mean, for a computer microphone, it's actually not too bad.
Really?
Yeah. Sounds
Okay.
good enough. Sounds
all
good.
Right.
Sweet.
Then let's just leave it the way it is then. Cool.
And I say in the spirit of Peter, let's do this just straight up uncut. We'll just keep going. We'll post it as it is, and we'll try something new. Why the hell not, right?
Yeah.
Do you know, a lot of people that I do podcasts with, they're like, just let us do our intro, and then we do the conversation. My intros and outros are recorded separately. I just do it afterwards, have a time to think about the conversation.
Right.
Right.
So you get a chance to jam that now.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. We sort of talked about that just a few minutes ago, and I was like, well, this is a good opportunity to just give it a shot and go for it.
Change it up.
I mean, after all, you did kind of inspire us to actually get started on this podcast. I mean,
really?
Yeah.
Is that true?
So Pandora, I think you know who Pandora is. I know you've interacted with her a couple times.
Yeah, of course.
She had us on her show one time just to talk, and at that point, Mitch and I were talking. We were like, hey, let's do a podcast. So in my typical fashion, I like to overthink the shit out of everything. So I'm sitting there like, okay, we got to come up with a good name. We've finally got a name. And I'm thinking about domains and websites and everything I'm going to need to line up to make this happen. We got to get our schedule. We got to figure out how many episodes we're going to do, who we're going to interview, all that shit. And then I listened to you and Pomp's joint episode.
Oh, cool.
And there was a bit in that where you were talking about like, what is the advice you would give somebody starting a podcast?
What did I say? Did I say just start?
Just fucking do it.
Just fucking do it. Just start.
So we just fucking did it. We released our first episode that night, and it was shit. It was terrible, but who cares?
Oh, what? It was
not.
It was not terrible. If you go back and listen to it, it was fucking awesome.
Is it?
I listened to my first one, and I hate it. But no, you just got to start, and you got to start and be consistent. They're like the two first rules: start and be consistent. So I did 3 episodes, and then I didn't do one for about, I think, 3 or 4 weeks or something. I can't even remember. And then I did another one, and then I never missed a week. I've never missed a week, and since I've gone 2 a week, I've never missed a show apart from one Friday. It went out Saturday. You've got to be consistent, and you got to start, and then everything else comes from there.
Yeah, it's just kind of falling into place. Like I said earlier, we started on May 2nd, We're on number 45 now. You know, we just keep
Dang.
hitting them 2-3 a week, and it's so much fun, you know, and the way we do it too, it's pretty low stress. You know, we don't have to worry about it. It's just kind of a fun thing on the side. And if it turns into something bigger, then amazing. But, you know, it's just,
that's the way it goes. Mine was just a hobby, right? And now it's become this thing, but it was just a hobby. The first 10, 11 months, I just did it as a hobby and I loved it. But the other thing is you got to get people's head around is that like you've got to be patient as fuck, right? Because there's no quick wins. Even if you've got an amazing guest and have a big spike, like I had Andreas on and I had a massive spike in traffic. The next week, it pretty much went back to what it was. It's slow incremental growth year after year.
I'm sorry. I'm laughing right now because you say you got to be patient as fuck. But we started this bitch on May 2nd, and the growth that I've witnessed with this has been astronomical. And yeah, we were all about being patient. We were like, yeah, maybe we'll do one or two, you know, maybe an episode a week or get some of our friends to get on there. And then it just snowballed. And it's like you look at our schedule and we're booked into months ahead, you know, and it's so Sweet. It's so fulfilling and just it's amazing. And our community, you know, our community of followers, people that like our podcast is growing exponentially, and it's pretty awesome. It's very
I'm glad you say that word fulfilling as well, because I tell you what, this is the greatest job I've ever had by
you're not kidding.
No stretch of imagination. I cannot tell you how much I enjoy doing this. Like, I don't know you guys, right? But I now know if I got to go to Michigan, I can hit you up and we're going to grab a bit and we're going to hang out. I've got to meet all these amazing people around the world. You just get to talk about Bitcoin and just hang out. And, you know, I tell you what, it's great. Like people are saying, oh, there's too many podcasters. No, there's not. No. Anyone can create a podcast, get on and have a conversation. It doesn't matter if 5 people listen to it or 5,000 or 500,000.
You're doing what you love.
Yeah. And you're learning and you're learning from other people and you're learning when you prep. No, I love it. I'm glad you said that. And,
you know, and it's just, you know, fulfilling and humbling to say another word, you know, and another feeling, because, you know, when you're just a couple of guys, average guys, you know, I mean, the professor being a tech individual, you know, who's really good at tech, and then myself just being an average carpenter is, you know, it's pretty surreal to actually develop something like this.
Yeah. Are you in your workshop right now?
Yes, I am. I am actually. And my computer's about to die. I'm gonna have to run back in the house and grab my cord.
We'll forgive you.
You're in the man den.
I'm in the man cave, right? Where all the magic happens.
All the magic, all the building. Yeah. So the spike thing, that was one of those things, Peter. I just want to kind of touch on that. You know, you pointed out how you have like a big guest and you get this big spike in engagements and activity, and then it just all kind of goes away. Like episode number 5 for us was Janice McAfee and John McAfee, and they retweeted it. And of course, yeah, you get that huge, massive spike and this influx of people, and everybody's like, you know, and then the week later it smooths out and you're back down to your just, you know, trickle of stuff. And then we recorded with Justin Vendetta and got the same thing. You know, it's one of those spikes, but you know, then it comes back down, but it's just a little bit higher every time, right? So you get these big, spikes, but then you have those small handful of people that stick around and continue listening, and it's really cool.
Well, that's where it comes down to brand and community building. Like, I don't shy away from the fact that I'm like a marketing guy. That's my background, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't shy away from that. I don't do any kind of shallow marketing. I'm honest about everything I do, but you have to build a brand, and the brand itself is a couple of things. Like, visually, it's the brand. So, you know, when I create those banners that go out on Twitter, you know, the pink and black banners with the black and white photo, people know them and they get used to them. They're like, oh, there's Pete's show. So there's the visual branding, but there's the experience brand that people know what they're going to get from the product, who I'm going to interview, what the interview style is. And once people buy into that and they enjoy your style, they'll stick with you. And, you know, I have that with the shows I listen to. Like, I'm a big fan of Joe Rogan. I'm a fan of Rich Roll. I'm kind of getting into Sam Harris. You know, I like Stefan Rivera. You know, and they all do the same. They all focus on their brand, and you know what you're going to get every time you listen to a show. And I guess that's something you're learning as well.
Right. Yeah. We're trying to figure out our space, you know, and kind of what works for us and what we love. And we start out real simple. You know, we're going to record episodes. We'll do a little bit of branding. We're starting to get some merch going. try to get that, that image out there, that visual, like you're talking about, like you say, when you see that pink and black and white, it's Peter McCormack. Like nobody else has anything that looks the same. You found a way to take, it's clear that you have a marketing background. Let's just put it that way. It's obvious, what the hell you're doing, and you do a good job at it. And so it's kind of inspiring maybe, like marketing is not my skill set. It's not my thing. Like I can kind of clobber my way through it and do all right, but it's definitely not. So it's nice to see good branding like that. It's satisfying in a way.
But you've got to give a hat tip to people. Like I can't just come out and say, yeah, that's all me. I just came up with it and I was brilliant. Like my mentor and inspiration for my podcast was a guy called Rich Roll, a friend of mine out in LA who's got a very successful podcast. And when I launched, I looked at what he did. Like the structure of my show is the same as his. It's intro music, me speak, interview, and ads, all in the same structure as his. I followed him, and then following from that, he had a banner. I was like, okay, I need a banner style. So like I learned from him. Interestingly, recently, he's just added to his tweets when he releases a show, he now adds a subtweet where he thanks his sponsors. And, he gave a hat tip back to me. He was like, thanks, Pete. We all learn from each other. And, I don't say this in any way arrogantly, but I've noticed other people who've got kind of crypto or Bitcoin podcasts, they've started to kind of follow some of the things I've done. Like they've focused on their banners, or I've noticed other people are starting to do series like I do series, but that's cool. Like I'm more than willing to help anyone. If anyone's got a podcast, I've done like 5 or 6 Skype sessions where I just share everything I've done because we can all grow the pie together. This isn't about competition. Yeah. And I think there's nothing wrong from learning from other people. Like when I see somebody do something amazing, I learn from it. I've mentioned Joe Rogan a couple of times to you, but one of the things that are quite interesting about Joe's show now, I actually listen to his ad reads. And the reason I listen to his ad reads is he's really engaging with them. I'm like, right, okay, what can I learn from Joe with his ad reads? I know I can't say welcome to motherfucking Kraken because I don't have his vocal style and I don't have him, but I notice how he makes clear and concise separate points, which is what I've started to do in my ad reads. So, if anyone wants to do this, like you just have to look at what other people are doing and find out what you think works and what doesn't. And don't be scared to copy. Like if someone's got you shouldn't blatantly rip off someone's brand and colors or something. But, if you see somebody's doing something and you think it works, add it to your show, do it to your show. And I think that's what's great about this is that, I don't know if you're a similar age to me. I think I might be in the middle of you two. I'm 40, right? I remember a time of no internet. Okay. Like when I was like 14, the internet came out. Now everything's out there for you. Like there's no fucking excuse. If you want to do something, you can do it. You've got the tools and you've got the other people you can learn from. So I say, steal with pride.
Right. Yeah. You got to build off of everything. If everybody's reinventing the wheel, we're not going to go anywhere.
No, and I think everybody's individual style, individual personality is what makes their show shine. Even if they use techniques and ideas from us or from you or from other podcasts, it's your originality that separates you from the other people, right? It's you. It's not your platform. It's not how you structure your show, but it's ultimately you and your guest and how you guys interact with each other, I think is what really separates it.
You buy into a person, right?
Yeah.
You buy into a person, you buy into their personality. I like Rich Roll because I like his he gets really deep with people. Some of the shows are emotional. You can tell he prepares. And I really like that. And I really appreciate that about him. The couple of shows I've listened to are Sam Harris. I really like his perspective and I like the way he talks. I just enjoy his slow, methodical way of breaking down a subject. I like Joe Rogan because I just laugh, I buy into them as people.
Yes.
And if they've got the guest, then great. But if you don't buy into the person, it's kind of going to be hard, right?
Exactly. So now we just need to get the campfire in your repertoire and get some feedback. From you. That would be amazing.
Well, what you got to do is after this, you got to send me your favorite show and not just send me your biggest. Like if one. No. Like mine, I like sending people the first one I did with Andrew Polstra because that was just a surprise. I was really scared about the interview because I don't understand the tech. I didn't know what the hell to talk to him about. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go with nothing. So I went with no questions and we just sat there and we just had this really strange and cool bond. And it was a great interview. And I always share that. So share me after this, just ping me the one which is your favorite.
Yeah, definitely. I'll have to listen to that one because that's one that I have not heard of yours. So I will have to check that out.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
actually going to
very
be challenging to do.
Actually, I have an idea of which one that we're going to send him.
Okay.
So
I'm thinking
I think it was your most recent income report, Peter. You showed a donation to the REKT podcast of $30.
Yeah.
So you know who the REKT podcast is then. So we did an interview with them, and I think that was one of our favorites. It was
awesome.
fun. Those guys
Yeah.
are hilarious. It was a
They
good, like, all four of us just kind of sitting around bullshitting. So I would we'll send you that one. I think it's
Yeah, I
fun.
love those guys, right? I mean, I'm not a shitcoiner anymore, but I do really, really like those guys. I just think they're good guys, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
they're fun. They're fun. And as far as shitcoiners go, I like my shitcoins.
Yeah, right.
But I know Peter, how you feel. I know you said that you kind of feel that what did you say, like 95% Bitcoin now? You're about 95%.
Well, no, I'm the only. So what I've got left, I've got, like, if you've got like an Ethereum wallet, you've got coins that have been sent to you for free.
Mm-hmm.
I've got some of those left, and I've got some, like, a couple that just sunk so low that it's not even worth fucking selling. So strictly speaking, they exist as mine, as I own the address, but I don't do anything with them. I'm not touching them. I don't check them. They'll probably live there forever and die there. So
Right.
I don't have them. And then on one of my laptops, I've definitely got some Monero left in a wallet that I've never gone through the process of, like, sorting out or moving. And I will at some point, but strictly speaking, I am 100% Bitcoin now. I'm only interested in Bitcoin for a couple of reasons. Firstly, just it's allowed me to really focus on the product, actually, what I do, and just be 100% focused on Bitcoin. Secondly, what I really struggle with shitcoins is understanding why I would trade them apart from to make more Bitcoin. Like, what is the purpose of them? Is there any utility? And people talk about it, but I can't see in a single instance where I've said, yeah, I think I want to buy that to do this one thing. The only exception, I've brought back Monero a couple of times. I thought, well, look, if I had to do something that was really dodgy and I wanted to hide the fact and I could somehow anonymously get some Monero and pay with it, yes, I would use Monero, and I've got some shit for that. People are like, oh, you're still a shitcoiner, you're a scammer, fuck you, blah blah blah. But I really, I have to one of the things you have to do is, if you're not technical, you have to put your, like, your stake in the fire and say who you're going to trust, right? Who are the people's opinion you're going to trust because you can't figure this out,
Right.
And Udi, I always struggle with his surname, the Naima or whatever his surname is, but Udi I trust implicitly. I trust Jameson Lopp implicitly. There's a bunch of people Adam Back I really trust. And when they explain it to me technically why they think Bcash is a scam or why Ethereum won't scale, I have to trust them and go, okay, I trust you because I can't figure out myself. That said, I think you can look at some of these things and say, okay, can Ethereum scale? Does it make sense to put all this stuff on a blockchain? Let's look now. I'm trying to create a node, right? I'm trying to set up my first ever node, and I've got to buy a hard disk because my laptop doesn't have enough space for the blockchain, right? And that's for the entire history of Bitcoin. If you're going to have something like Ethereum that's going to have so much more stuff on their blockchain, and their blocks are every whatever they are, I don't know, whether they seconds, whatever, you'll think how much is going to be stored on their blockchain, right? Okay, if that's true, how do I create a node? Well, I looked at Eric, what's his name? Eric tried to create an Ethereum node, and he's struggling with it. So if you can't create an Ethereum node, you have to go through a centralized body like Infura. And if you're going through a centralized body like Infura, well, you're not really decentralized. So what does this blockchain offer you that a database doesn't? So I can piece bits together to kind of, in my head, it makes sense that, okay, I don't think this can work, but I can definitely be out debated by somebody who is more technical. So, it's, And when I look at it, I go, do you know what? The best things, let's just stick with Bitcoin. I know enough about it. I trust it. It's where I can focus my time and energy. I'm a terrible trader anyway. Most people are. Most people lose trading. So why do I want to try and beat the market? And one of the great things since I stopped trading is my Bitcoin balance has only gone up because I stack sats. Like, I always accumulate more Bitcoin than I spend each month. And then I don't have to worry about anything else after that.
That's a good point.
Now, what about... Go ahead.
Okay. You said one sentence that really is important that I want to touch on. What does this blockchain offer you that a database doesn't? And that is what separates a real true utility. Okay, I shouldn't say true utility token because that's really not the words I'm trying to get at. But a that separates a token or a project that is using the blockchain for a real purpose from the ones that are using it just to use blockchain. You know, there's a lot of cases where a database is a much better option than a fucking blockchain, you know, and that's probably 90% of altcoins out there, if we're honest, you know. There will be, as technology progresses, I think some more cases that can truly utilize blockchain. But like you're saying, we have some technical limitations right now that make it a really hard thing to do. As soon as we can start getting massive amounts of data storage in a single machine, you know, sure, we can get a handful of terabytes right now in a laptop, but that's still not shit, you know, compared to, like you're saying, you got to download the whole node, the whole blockchain history is fucking massive. And then trying to share that over the internet, you know, our connection speeds are not where they need to be to do this. But as soon as we get to the point where that amount of information can be stored and transmitted extremely easily and extremely cheaply, that opens up a whole new world of everybody can run that particular node on their machine just without any effort at all, you know. And
but why like what is the use case for this blockchain that a database doesn't offer you?
The only true use case at that point to start with, and on a very base level, is you have a truly decentralized system. But don't think about it from a currency standpoint. Let's take one particular example. Think about decentralized web hosting. Okay, so now we're talking way in the future and massive changes to technology as it exists. But think about the concept of being able to store, quote unquote, a blockchain that is the quote unquote internet on your machine, or at least a small subset of it, right? So you're serving your own content based off of your one machine, and it's all distributed and everybody shares the same content. And so nothing can be changed, nothing can be altered or mutated without consensus. And so I don't think we can truly fathom the actual amazing use cases that can come from this particular data structure down the road. And that has nothing to do with investments either. Like, you know, blockchain's a data structure, right? So I mean, you might find the most epic thing ever 50 years from now that uses blockchain, but it has nothing to do with Bitcoin, you know, so your Bitcoin's not going to go up. But
you know what, like if somebody does something and it is worthwhile, like I'll be the first to say, okay, that's cool. But for me right now, I agree with the Daniel, the guy from Microsoft, who says like there's 3 use cases right now. That's Bitcoin, identity, and timestamps. And you can do all of those on Bitcoin. And the reason you do those on, you know, timestamps and identity on Bitcoin is because you trust Bitcoin. Okay, so they're the use cases. You know, sometimes whilst you can do something, is it required, and will enough people use it? And that's what I would say. Like, how much of a need is there for decentralized web hosting? I don't know. I honestly don't know. If there is like some future whereby, you know, like we've had recently where certain countries have switched off the internet. I think Ethiopia did recently. They kind of switched off the internet, which is fucking mad. Like, is there some scenario where you're able to distribute the internet peer-to-peer without, like, maybe over a mesh network? Yeah, great. But then does it even need a blockchain? Like, you know, you look at the Pirate Bay. They can't fucking close the Pirate Bay down. How many times have they tried to close the Pirate Bay down?
Blockchain for that shit.
No, but you don't need a blockchain. You don't need a token. You don't need game theory. So, like, again, I'm just like, I think we're trying to find a solution. We're trying to find a problem for the solution, but like it doesn't exist, and that's what I really struggle with. But you know, I'm open-minded. Somebody does something cool, show me. But right now, I'm like,
I mean, that's a good point. Like we are at this point, we are definitely in that seeking for a problem phase. We have a tool that we feel is a solution to, you know, a lot of people feel it's the solution to absolutely everything, which I'll disagree with that. You know, it's got its purposes. Maybe we haven't found the best one yet, or even a really good one yet, per se. But just with any data structure, you can always find something. And so maybe we'll see what it'll be. I think microtransactions and any type of machine-to-machine transaction, I think those are going to be a really strong thing. But then again, what does blockchain offer specifically to improve microtransactions that a regular database or digitized fiat can't? Obviously, that takes us back to the concept of verifiability and having, you know, that side of things. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of building to do. I just think there's a lot of potential in the future, but I think we've got a ton of building and a ton of, we've got a lot of bad shit to go through before we get there, right?
Yeah, and sometimes we have these really bad analogies, and I've been, you know, guilty of using them before, saying, well, look at the start of the internet. we only, we had all these failures like Webvan and boo.com, blah, blah, blah. And, we're still early. And I think that comparison to the internet's dangerous. I think is poor because
I'm guilty of that myself.
Yeah. Well, the internet itself is like, it's a way of sending information, right? It's a way of sending, that's what it is. It's not just, originally it was just kind of like websites with basic HTML and email, but now it's like mobile phones and, your fridge and your computer and like everything that can send information back to each other and create certain interactions. That's what it does. So it allows you to create any kind of interaction from any part of the world, almost on any device. So I could be at the top of a mountain on my mobile phone and I can send you an email when you're sat in your car the other side of the planet, or I can buy a hat off you from Australia when you're, on an island in the Pacific. Like any form of interaction, whether it's communication or commerce, it allows that to happen. What does a blockchain allow you to do? It allows you to, have immutable records, right? It's immutable records. It allows censorship resistance and it allows you to have something that can't be closed down by the government. Now, if there's unstoppable apps, that's amazing. But is a blockchain the solution to that? Now, it seems like a good solution for money. It seems like a really good solution for a form of money. But other things I do struggle with. Like I say, I can be out-debated on this. Someone might listen to this and go, he's a fucking idiot because he doesn't know this. But
somebody will always have that opinion no matter what anybody says. Yeah.
Yeah, I just go with my gut feeling. I go with a combination of gut feeling, the trust I put in certain opinion leaders, and I've come to the conclusion, like right now, nobody's presented anything to me that I think, well, that's worth looking at. And because there's no mass usage, right? There is a certain amount of usage of Bitcoin. Like I use Bitcoin every month, like 5, 6, maybe 10 times. I don't use anything else because I've got no need. Now I look at Ethereum and go, what's the use case? Well, there's plenty of usage, but it's mainly by developers building stuff. Mm-hmm. And some of these blockchains have some gaming things going on, right? Okay. But strictly speaking, there isn't that much happening. And I'm thinking, well, why? We're years in now. Why? It's because they've not created a solution which enough people care about.
Everybody is like right on the verge of something that they think is amazing,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, exactly. And some of them, I feel like there's a few projects that have some potential so that's the key. If they can do it right, number one, if you can build it in a way that truly leverages blockchain to do something good, and then you've got to get people to use it. Like you said, if you don't have a bunch of people using it, what's the point? Doesn't matter.
Exactly. So I got to step in here, right? I've listened to my amazing technical partner speak, and I've listened to Mr. McCormack speak, which I value your opinions absolutely. But from a layman standpoint, from just an average Joe that's been in crypto for 22 months now, 21 months, right? My knowledge is growing daily, and my view of all of this is just this. My first question to both of you guys is the internet a centralized entity? If it's something that can be controlled by a government by eliminating the potential use for it, I would say yes. But what's your view on that?
I mean, it's yes and no. I mean, I wouldn't know fully how to technically answer that, but of course governments can switch it off. Like I say, we've seen that in Ethiopia or in China. We've seen there's certain amounts of censorship. We've seen in Russia that certain companies have to sign up to passing their data over. So there's certainly centralized control. I think almost any government can switch off the internet in their territory. There are probably ways around this as well, things that people are doing, I expect. But you would hope that at least in most modern Western democracies, like the UK, within most of Europe, within the US, within Australia, New Zealand, these kind of countries, whilst it can be switched off, they're not doing it because then they become authoritarian states.
Right. And that being said, I think because the government can't really switch off Bitcoin, the government can't really switch off blockchain because it's so decentralized in a reality's sake. I think that's what offers the benefit. And like I said, this is just my opinion and my layman view of things, right? But I think that's a benefit of, say, a blockchain hosted or a decentralized web source that we can all use without the fear of censorship, without the fear of being shut down because the government says, oh, they're getting too much information.
right? And I think that's why governments shut that shit down, is because it's an absolute means of attaining information that they don't necessarily want you to know. And what's more powerful than anything in the world, right? Knowledge. That is the most powerful tool that any human can possess. More powerful than anything. So with that ability to attain that knowledge, of course, that's threatening to anybody that's in a position of power, right? Now, moving on to Bitcoin, I agree 100% wholeheartedly. Bitcoin is an absolute store of value. I think it's an amazing asset for people to invest in. But as far as spending, I think the other tokens or coins, I should say, like Digibyte or Litecoin or XRP even, are a faster, more economical way to transmit funds from point A to point B and from peer to peer. I think, again, my opinion, I think that Bitcoin is a slower process of this. Maybe it more secure, but I think it's just slower and more expensive to operate. So I guess those are my two major points on all of the conversation. I think there's a lot to be said about decentralization and the fact that there's no one entity that controls it, and what allows that better than a blockchain where there's multiple entities controlling the information, not just a network, not just a single network.
But it comes down to trade-offs, right? Like what trade-offs are you willing to make? I would rather have slower transactions on the Bitcoin base chain and have more security than have the faster speed of some of these other blockchains. And also, look, Lightning's coming and Lightning's here, blah, blah, blah. And I know people have problems, and I have some issues with Lightning, but Lightning is improving, and Lightning does solve the speed thing as well. But the transactions I'm using Bitcoin for, they're settlement, they're invoices, they're international settlements. I don't really have to worry about the speed. And also, I am using it for commerce sometimes. And you know what? I send the transaction, as soon as the transactions are there, they're aware. And maybe I have to wait for 6 confirmations, but I've made the purchase as well. I can't use Bitcoin in a coffee shop. I don't want to or care about using Bitcoin in a coffee shop, and never have. I probably never will do. I'm happy for using my pounds next to it. But the problem with these faster ones is that they still don't have the liquidity required. And for me, they're just, I don't know. I've never bought into that argument. No, that's not true. Of course I've bought into that argument. So I used to trade shitcoins. I've come to the kind of natural realization for myself, they're just not worth it.
Right.
Well, I think something that is important to remember too is that Bitcoin, the speeds will improve over time as computing power increases and the ability to calculate hashes goes up in speed. I mean, it's just a natural consequence. As soon as Bitcoin is utilized by many more people and there's a lot more miners out there, transactions are going to settle faster. Of course, you're going to have more transactions, and so maybe there's a balance there at that point. But
I'm not so sure. I think the 10-minute block time isn't going to change, and I still think for 6 confirmations, you're going to be maybe about an hour, maybe a bit longer. And as the network gets used more and more, it's going to be more. I think Lightning is the solution. I think Lightning is going to give us our fast settlement, but I think it could be years. Like Bitcoin's taken 10 years so far. Maybe Lightning will take 5 to 10 years to get to that point where everything's abstracted away and you're just going and it's sending and it's instant, and you don't know the difference between whether you're using Lightning and the base chain. I don't know. I did an interview with John Newbery up at Chain Code Labs, and he thinks we're a couple of years away from people not being able to know the difference between the base chain and Lightning. But I don't know. I struggle. I look at these other coins and I just think, are people really using it? And do people really care? And I worry for them. And I think most people will end up losing money on them.
From an analogy standpoint, I look at it like this. All right, Bitcoin's the 4-wheel drive pickup, right? It's going to get you through the high hills, and it's going to get you anywhere you want to go. And especially in low one, right? As far as a gear, that 4-wheel drive is going to bite and grab and just keep pulling you along. And then you have Digibyte, which is the little Ferrari, okay? That gets you where you need to go fast. And it might not be as safe and secure as that big pickup truck, right, of Bitcoin. And Litecoin's kind of the same way. Litecoin to me is more like a Cadillac, maybe a higher end, speed Cadillac.
A higher Cadillac.
It gets you where you want to go, and it gets you there quick and comfortable, right? So I guess.
Well, let me ask you something. How often are you spending Digibyte? Honestly.
I have not spent Digibyte yet. Honestly, I haven't.
How often are you spending Litecoin?
I'm spending Litecoin. I've spent more Litecoin in the last month than I ever had. And it's because it's with the Speedin app, an application that allows me to transfer my Litecoin and be able to use it like at AMC Theater or use it at a coffee shop or send it to my kids and they want to go to the movies, you know, they can do that. And I can use Litecoin to do that instead of giving them cash. So that I think is my biggest opportunity that I value with Litecoin right now.
And why do you do that? Like, why don't you just Venmo them some dollars?
At that point, it becomes a.
Are you trying to offload your bags?
No, I'm not trying. I'm trying to use them as a currency, which I feel that is what they're intended to be used for. And if I'm in profit, then why not be able to spend some of it, right? I mean, I have my long-term holds, and then I have my short-term bags that I consider what I'm going to use to spend some of my profits instead of cashing it out. I just as soon spend it. And, you know, when you look at based on my opinion of how a transaction is viewed, I look at it like this. When it comes to cryptocurrencies, there's no tax in the world on a transfer from, say, the US dollar to the pound. There's no tax on that transaction. And so I feel that my transfer of $1 to Bitcoin and then spending that Bitcoin or spending that Litecoin falls under the same guide of that because it's a currency transaction from one currency to another. If it goes up in value, so be it. And my view on that is simply because if the dollar goes up in value, if the pound goes up in value because the economy starts booming, do we get taxed on the difference of value of real-time value of our money? No, we don't. So why should we get taxed on the value of a currency, be it cryptocurrency, that goes up in value, but if we're spending it instead of cashing it out and taking a profit, we're actually spending it, then I think it falls under a different view. But that's my opinion on it too.
I mean, you know what, like, you're welcome to do that and good luck to you. And I have no issue. I don't see it for me. And I don't see a scenario where, like, I think potentially the medium exchange thing is at times misleading because I don't see the benefit of buying Litecoin to send with fluctuation risk to send to somebody else to spend. We still spend in dollars and pounds. We don't have Bitcoin really or Litecoin as a unit account. So I don't understand that journey for me. My Bitcoin hold is a long-term hold and I'll occasionally spend it if it's a more efficient process than sending pounds or dollars, but I always top up again,
Right.
But that's me. We all have our own use cases, right?
Sure. Exactly. And that's the beauty of it, right? It affords us that opportunity to do with it as we see fit for ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Dude, this is a great conversation. I love it. But I got to ask you this one.
Go on, shoot.
If you could replace your eyeball with something, what would it be and what would you use it for?
Replace my eyeball with something. I would replace it with a. Right, hold on. I've got to think about this carefully. If I only one eyeball or both of them.
Only one.
Only one. I'd put X-ray vision in one.
That's beautiful.
There you go.
Of course. Yeah.
That's way better than Mitch's peephole.
Oh, well, it was a peephole to begin with, and then my new version of it was a laser finder. A laser,
right. You got a
laser pointer with a rangefinder in it. So when I go hunting, I can spot my prey faster.
I like
I've always thought with X-ray vision, like, what do you get with that? Do you get like one layer so you can look through a wall, or do you get the ability to peel someone's clothes off? I've always wondered, what do you actually get with X-ray vision? And
man, to have control.
We got to find somebody with X-ray vision and interview them.
Amazing.
You make a switchable eyeball just to replace your left eyeball with one you can switch between, like, X-ray vision and thermal imaging and night vision.
In this box we have the undresser. Right?
There you go. The XXX setting at the very end.
I like the night vision eyeball. That'd be kind of fun too.
That would be fun. So I wonder what it would look like having night vision on one and the other not night vision.
Yeah, you just go around like switching between eyes.
Switching your eyeballs.
Or do you know what? I'd like remember Terminator's vision? Like, as Terminator's looking, he's getting all the stats and details and scanning the land. That would be kind of cool. So as you're walking up to somebody, you know who they are, whether they're a piece of shit or not.
And every minute of the day, you've got the Bitcoin price like in the top left corner of your vision.
Oh, fuck that. Do you know what? I don't check the
You
price
go
anymore.
crazy.
I don't even know what the price is now. One of the best things I did was stop caring about the price. I genuinely, the only time I find out the price is when somebody else says it. And I'm really happy with that. And I used to check it like fucking every like few minutes.
Right. Like it was, and I'm still that way. Like I usually pull it out of my pocket, but I will tell you this. I spent every dollar that I had in my Binance account for the St. Louis meetup. So I haven't even looked at my fucking Binance because, you know, all my hardware wallets are tucked away. And so I haven't even bothered opening Binance to check anything in a day and a half. And that's the longest I've ever gone without looking at the Bitcoin price. I'm not going to lie.
You know what? It's liberating. I'm telling you now, it's really liberating.
It really is.
Yeah, it's changed. Like it's just made my life so much better.
Yeah, I guess that's a good thing. Once you realize that it's going to do what it's going to do, whether you're looking at it or not, you know, I don't know. I think that's a good thing. Like every time I looked at my Binance before, I was always looking at it because, okay, am I going to sell? Am I going to try and stack a little more Bitcoin on this drop, or am I going to, try and long this random shitcoin? And I don't know. It would be much more healthy for me to not look at my phone every 5 minutes.
Well, listen, if you rely on the money, then I understand why people do it. I don't now. I've got a separate income, and I know I'm not going to seriously sell for like 10 years. So I just, forget about it.
Might as well. 10 years, it's going to be so amazing.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. We'll see. Could all go to shit.
Regardless of what the price is. I mean, just where we go in tech, whether it's blockchain or not, I think the next 10 years are going to be fucking amazing. Every 10 years. I mean, just look how far we've come in the last 10 years and the 10 years before that,
What's scary? I mean, I find AI is a little bit scary. I find deep fakes quite scary. I think that's going to become a real problem, deep fakes. They're getting better and better. I think that's going to become a problem. It's like, how do you know what a real video is or not? Can you fake a video and make a famous person look like they're being a racist or just taking cocaine but through a deep fake? We're going to have a way of verifying video.
Something.
And we're going to have people caught out doing shit and say, no, that's a deep fake.
Yeah. There's going to be some weird shit that comes with, I mean, the identity theft world as it is now is intense, but like you're saying, as soon as you can start generating videos that look like legitimately real, I mean, right now that it's almost kind of our confirmation, right? Well, we can physically see that person, so we know this is legit. As soon as that becomes questionable, where are we? Like you say, we're going to have new tech that verifies these things, but I mean, what is it? What's it going to be? What do we have to do?
Oh, man, I'm going to go and hide up in the mountains and live in a cabin.
Yeah. Well, I'm in Montana. I've got mountains 10 minutes from me, 360 degrees. So if you need to disappear,
I need to learn how to hunt as well.
I got you covered there too, man.
Yeah. Right on. Oh my God. Could you imagine a hunting trip?
Cultures, I don't want to get into guns too much on here. I'm not going to bring that up, but
no.
Bring it up.
Yeah, we'll bring it up. But I mean, I'm from Montana, right? So it's like in my blood. It's one of those things. I also don't go walking around with an AR-15 on my back either. But hunting is one of those things. Like I like to hunt for subsistence. I hunt for food.
Yeah.
What do you like to hunt for? I like to hunt for deer and elk. I go out. I'll take one a year. I eat the whole damn thing, and I don't care what's on top of its head.
What does elk taste like? Because Joe Rogan's always talking about like he hunts an elk and then he puts it in his freezer. He says it lasts him for ages. He says it tastes good. What does it taste like?
So it really depends on which one you get too. Like if you go out and you're shooting for antlers, right, and you find the biggest 7x7 bull you can find and you shoot it, it's gonna taste awful. It's all nutted up. It's old. It's rough. It's gamey. It's not good. You're not gonna like it. But if you go out and you find a young cow, yeah, I mean it's amazing. It's like the best bison almost that you've ever eaten. It's got a little bit of gaminess, but it's amazing.
We go with the saying, the cuter the meat, the sweeter the meat.
That's a fact.
When you shoot them big ugly bastards with the big horns, man, he's right. They taste rough, and I don't care if it's deer, elk. I've hunted whitetail my whole life, and
whitetail.
That's what's plentiful around me, and that's probably it's the only meat that I could get my vegetarian daughter to actually eat because of the fact that there's absolutely nothing in it other than natural life.
I did a year of vegan, and I've done probably 13 or 14 years of vegetarian at different points in my life. I did 10 years of vegetarian as a kid. After I was vegan, I stayed vegetarian for a couple of years. I'm back eating meat again. I'm happy to switch back to probably the healthiest I ever was, actually, was when I was vegan. I was in fucking great shape. Everything about me was good. But then, and I wasn't working, so I was able to make really good meals 3 times a day, really healthy, great ingredients. I went back to work and I couldn't make those great meals. I didn't have the time. And then I started to feel rough and shit. So I went back to eating meat. But I feel like at some point in my life, I need to hunt an animal. And, you know, I talked to my kids about this, and like my daughter was a bit freaked out about it. And I said, look, the one thing is, if I hunted an animal, it's almost certainly going to have had a better life and be more humanely killed and more humanely treated than in some kind of factory farming situation. Like, I've watched some of that stuff. The way the cows are treated,
it's horrible.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's a whole different world. There's something there. A lot of people don't understand this because they've never actually gone hunting. And I mean, I understand where people come from, where they don't like seeing an animal harmed. But like you say, it's a whole different world. And when you're out there in the field, like it's just me and my rifle and that herd of animals, or that one single animal. And when you take an animal, it's a powerful thing. And you know, there's feeling behind it. It's not just like this. Okay, and some people are, right? Some people are out there, they just love fucking killing shit. It's up. But some people are different. You know, you go out there and you take an animal, there's a connection there. You know, I always thank the animal for giving me that food. It's a life cycle, right? But you have to respect it. You have to respect that. And there's a lot of people that don't, which is unfortunate.
And I think that's why I think I want to do it. Because in the moment, if I can't do it, I might not be able to say you took me hunting and I just like, do you know what? I can't do it. I just can't do it. I think almost after that, I'll probably go back to being vegetarian. Because if I can't do it, why should I expect somebody else to do that for me in a less humane situation?
Right.
And if I can do it, I don't know. I reckon I'd feel pretty emotional about it. I reckon it would upset me a little bit, but I don't know. I've got to look.
Your first one does. There's no way around it.
Do you remember your first one?
I do.
Yeah, I do too.
Absolutely.
My first one, I was 12. I was at my grandma's house, and I was with my dad. We had gone out hunting. We walked around. So my grandpa owned this piece of land, maybe 10, 15 miles out of the nearest city. He owned like 2 or 3 acres, kind of like some hilly wooded area. And we got permission from his friend who had the neighboring land to hunt on his as well. So we had spent the whole day out looking around. We found a 4-point mule deer. My dad shot that one because I missed it, my first shot. We went back to the house. It was Thanksgiving, by the way. So we went back to the house. We're sitting in my grandma's dining room, which overlooks her deck and the entire backyard and the mountains. We're having Thanksgiving dinner, and all of a sudden these four deer come walking up over the hill, maybe 300 yards away. And my mom tells the story like she was afraid for her life because I was so excited to get out the door. I was tripping over the guns. She was like, we're all going to fucking die. And so I got my gun. We sat up on the back porch. I leaned over the railing and I took my first deer right there. And it's a different experience. I mean, that first time that you take an animal, it's an emotional thing. Like, it's exciting and it's kind of sad at the same time. But then when you get to sit down and have that first meal with your family with that meat that you have provided, it's a cool thing. So
let me ask you something as well. Like, during the process, say when you're out hunting and you shoot an animal, I'm assuming there's a certain place you want to hit it so it kills it instantly.
Yes.
Yeah. Say you miss slightly and it's suffering. Is there like a process to go and just like end its life as quickly as possible?
Yeah. And absolutely. I feel really bad. Everybody has, you know, sometimes you have a bad shot. And when I was 13, I had a bad shot and I gut shot a deer. And I felt
that sucks.
I found it and immediately, it was like 2 minutes, you know, it was maybe 3 minutes or so before I got to it. It went and hid under a tree, and you found it. And yeah, you just dispatch it immediately. You take it. I shot it probably closer than I should. I was 13, right? So my decision-making probably wasn't the best at the time, but so I got to it and I just shot it point blank with the rifle because I didn't have a pistol at the time. And it's an experience. I'll never forget that, you know, I'll never forget it.
That's hard to stomach.
It is. And ever since then, I've been very diligent in making sure that my marksmanship is where it needs to be, so that never happens again. Every shot since then has been one and done.
Well, I think a lot of it stems, from when you make that mistake. It's no different than any mistake you make in life, right? Every mistake you make in life, you have your share of sorrow, or you have your share of regrets. But the fact of what you learn from that is what makes you better, right? And the same thing with hunting. I think going through that is almost a must for every hunter at one point in their hunting time, simply because it brings the fact that, listen, I need to make sure, I need to be responsible and make sure that I have a solid shot, and make sure that that shot is going to do the job. And, so I think that's an important aspect to live through, even though it's challenging. And yes, I think, my first deer that I ever shot was a doe, and it was a clean shot. And, but I spine shot her, right? And I ran down the hill because she dropped. I ran down the hill and put her out. But it was that sense of, I just took a life, of something innocent, right? It's different like when you're in a wartime situation or combat situation, because if you take a life, it's you're protecting, right? You're protecting your own or the people around you. But when you're hunting an animal, it's more about bringing that spirit of that animal in, to you. And when you can combine that and put it on the table and feed, because like you said, there's this chain of life that happens, and there's always the predator and there's always the prey, regardless of nature.
I guess with that, there's a very different respect for the food. Like when you're sat at the table, there's almost like, I don't know, what do I want to say? It's not like a ceremony in any kind of weird cultish way, but it's kind of like... It's
ceremonial, for sure.
Yeah, but what I mean is, like, I know if I did that, and I could imagine if I was sat down, like, I would savor every bite and consider that, because I'd been through that process with that animal. So,
yes, you appreciate it 100%. And not everybody does this, but I do all of my processing 100%. So, I go out, I'll take the animal, obviously gut and clean it, and I process the whole thing. I cut it all up. I package all the meat. I do all of it myself. So it's 100%. There's an experience that goes along with it, and you appreciate every bit of it so much more when you're done. So
how long does an elk last you? You must be eating for like weeks off that.
I've got 3 boys.
Right.
It lasts a couple months.
Yeah.
Yeah, but do you know what? That saves some money as well, right? Like I bought a steak yesterday. I bought like a ribeye and bone, right? And it was 17 pounds. So that's like, I don't know, $22. Well, it's not cheap, but it's a fucking good steak. But like, your cost is your bullets.
Right. Well, it's the bullets, it's the license, it's the time from work.
And only went out and just shot one animal, came back, and it was that easy. Then my cost would be the bullets. However, this is a process.
It's an investment.
And it's a process, but it's like it's an exciting thing, like you go out and you're with your friends, the process of hunting is so much better than the process of that one moment where you shoot. It's like you're out in the middle of nature with some really good friends or family, whatever it is, and the things that you experience. I don't know how much time you've spent in the mountains, Peter, at all.
I've spent in the mountains in Canada and other places, not in the US so much. I mean, a little bit around like the Grand Canyon, like the drive through from LA I've done, but not at where you are. No, but I'm desperate to go. Like, we're clearly going to do this, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. The same concept applies. It's just an amazing thing. Like you're out there with nature, and regardless of how different every place is different, but it's the same amount of beauty in its own right. It's just different animals and different sites. And we are absolutely doing this because Mitch and I haven't gone hunting together yet either. Hunting season is November, the end of October, early November. So I don't know if it's too late to get out of state hunting licenses yet.
If we're not on tour,
we can't do it this year. We're doing it next year. So the 3 of us, we'll go whitetail hunting.
I'm in, man.
That's amazing.
Listen, do you know the story of when I shot my first gun?
No.
It's a fucking great story. So I'd recorded 2 podcasts, right? Mm-hmm. Couple of traders, and then I saw this picture of Jameson Lopp on Twitter with his big beard, holding his big fucking gun, wearing his cap saying "Make Bitcoin Great Again." I was like, "Who is this guy?" So I dropped him an email. I was like, "Yeah, hi, I've just launched this podcast. I'd really like to interview you. Could we do it?" And he came back and he said, "Yeah, sure." I was like, "So if I fly out and see you, can you take me to shoot a gun? Because I've never shot a gun." He was like, "Yeah, sure." So I got on a plane, flew out to North Carolina, got to his house. There was like fucking 20 guns out. We was choosing the ones.
Nice.
By the way, I was a vegan at this point. So I can't remember the order we did things. Did we record first or did we go out first? I can't remember, but I think we recorded first, and then he took me for barbecue, right? Bear in mind, I'm a vegan, and I did not have the heart to say I'm a vegan, so I ended up eating. I just ate barbecue with him. I'm like, I'm not fucking saying I'm a vegan.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then he took me to this gun range, and I was excited and nervous at the same time, both feelings. I had a real disdain for guns, generally speaking. I mainly thought they're fucking terrible. Why do people have them? And then I spent a lot of time in the gun, because they have a big gun shop attached to the range. And they were chatting to the people there, and like the girl told me she'd grown up with guns. She's got like 37 guns. And, you know, it's part of the culture. And I started to understand that. I ended up picking up a gun and like holding it. She was like, no, aim at the floor. Because I fucking realized. And then we went in the range. And the really thing that weirded me out about that was it was so normal. It was like going bowling. Yeah. Everyone had a separate lane. There was a boyfriend and girlfriend in one lane. There was like an old couple in the next lane, and a couple of people on their own. I was like, this is bowling, but with guns, right? This is bowling. You've turned up, you're doing your shit, and you're leaving. Anyway, Jameson set me up with my first gun, and I shot it. And the thing that blew me away was the power. I was like, fuck. I did not realize how powerful these things are, because you see it in the film, and the people are like, pop, pop, pop. And you're like, I can't imagine you can actually do that. And I just could not believe the power of it. And, you know, I've gotten some discussions recently on Twitter with people about guns, usually after some fucking moron shot a bunch of people up, and people are like, you want to take away our guns? I'm like, firstly, I don't. I don't. Who am I to do that? Because, you know, I'm from England. I'm not that disrespectful. I'm in this situation where I wouldn't like America to take their guns away, but I wouldn't like guns to be introduced in the UK in the same way. I think we're okay as we are, and you're okay as you are. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's totally two different cultures, right? I mean, it's two different places.
But at the same time, I do have this thing where I look at America and I think, God, isn't it a shame there is so much gun violence? But I don't know the answer. I wish I did. I wish somebody who mattered did, and it would change.
Seriously. Well, I mean, the biggest thing about gun violence is like, the problem is there's already so many of them out there, right? So we could totally ban guns, and unless we went around and confiscated them, like what good's it going to do? The guns are out there. People are going to get them now. So it's that my focus on, you know, like I say, I'm from Montana, so guns are a real big part of my life. I think our important thing is mental health and things like that. And there's no one answer. I mean, as soon as you start going down that rabbit hole, then you have like rights issues of like, well, at what point do you determine that this person is mentally incapable of owning a gun? And so like, it's just, there's rabbit holes every direction, and there's no good answer. That's why we still have this problem. There's no good answer. You know? Right.
There is no good answer. But I definitely want to learn more about it.
Shitty. Yeah. You know, the thing is, without guns, like people will still find ways. We run people over in crowds. We throw acid in their faces. Like, what the hell? You know, I mean,
people are going to find a way, and you know,
it's sad, really sad.
Yeah, it's a fucked up situation. You're probably right. There probably is no right answer, because you take away a gun, someone's going to drive a car at people. They're going to do something else. But like, you know, the stats are there, and it is a shame. But I'm trying to respect it a bit more. But at the same time, I wouldn't want the UK to change and have the same gun laws as the US. We don't need to introduce that. Well,
and that would be like a cataclysmic event, right? I mean, as soon as all of a sudden now you have a country that's, you know, it's not like there's no guns, right? But it's nowhere near the same level as the US. And then all of a sudden you just dump all of those guns into one. I mean, there's going to be a disaster. That would be a disaster. It would not be.
I do find it also, you know, when like somebody's wandering around with like an AR-15 on their back because they've got like an open, what is it? The open
carry.
Open carry, yeah.
I find that very state. Yeah. I don't know. I think a lot of people just have that. It's my right, so I can do it. And I think there's a point where you have to be a little bit, you know, intelligent, right? I mean, just because it's your right to walk up to somebody on the street, you're a fucking idiot. Don't do it. You know?
Yeah.
You know, I think there's some like self-control that needs to happen. And there's just like anything, there's always some people that take shit too far and do stupid shit. And it's like, why do you have to do that? Because it makes the rest of us responsible people look like idiots.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, you're right. But definitely, look, I'm going to come and shoot with you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God, can you imagine? I'm all over this shit. So we're going to start planning this now for whenever we're going to do it. And in the meantime, you know, I appreciate you following me on Twitter, and I hope that following us is a positive experience for you, positive enough to continue to follow us. And I do have one question of advice that I would like to get from you.
Throw it at me.
So we're looking at doing a almost like a world adoption tour where we take the Campfire, worldwide and do a tour and visit a bunch of people. So in doing this, is there, or what would you suggest us do to try and find possible sponsors or financial assistance to engage with us to make this journey happen?
It's a numbers game, dude. It all comes down to your numbers. Like sponsors want to get their product in front of people. You've got to have numbers. I didn't start getting sponsorships till I was doing plus 5,000 downloads a show, and then I've gone on from there because it's a numbers game. That's what it is. That's all it's going to come down to. If you're getting thousands of downloads per show or like tens of thousands in total per month, you've got enough of eyeballs to go to a sponsor and say, look, I've got eyeballs here. Do you want to put your product out? If you haven't got the numbers, there's nothing there.
Right.
It's a very simple game.
All the time.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. So I got to ask you, before we get too close to the end here, I want to know what it was like to run into somebody with your face on their socks.
Oh, God.
Do you know what? I tell you what, I put out a tweet recently, maybe like a month ago, where I said, the harder you work, the weirder life gets, right? So I remember you were saying earlier on, you were like, I'm just like, a nobody. And I'm the same. I'm just a nobody guy from Bedford, right? 2 years ago, let's say 3 years ago, my company in London had collapsed. My marriage had broken up. I was nearly broke. Life was fucked. I was just coming off in like cocaine recovery, like everything that could possibly have gone wrong in the space of about a year did. Like everything went to shit. And I had nothing. And then I started this podcast as a hobby, found shitcoins, traded, blah, blah, blah. But over the last year, like life has changed so much and like in just the most amazing way, but lots of weird things come with it. Like people just knowing who you are is a weird experience. I've twice now been stopped in public and it's a really humbling thing. Once on the Underground in London, a dude came up to me and was like, "Oh, you Pete McCormack?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, I listened to your podcast." I was like, "This is really fucking weird." He was like, "Oh, just keep doing what you're doing." I was like, "That's cool." And I had it when I was in Boston. I was sat at a bar and I was working away, just preparing a show for the next day. And a guy walked past and saw the What Bitcoin Did thing. He's like, "Oh, you Pete McCormack?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Can I buy you a drink?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." Ended up having a few drinks with him. So that's weird. People creating memes about you online is weird. People trolling you. I mean, I get fucking trolled to shit. I get relentlessly abused. I get so much fucking hate, like non-stop fucking hate daily, like all day, every day. I get the dude at the thing. He comes up with a pair of socks. I got my fucking face on it. Like all that stuff happens. But what it says to me, it just says I'm doing something right. That's all it says. And by the way,
connecting with people.
Yeah, in getting there, I've done so much wrong. Like, I'm not proud of some things I've done. I've been an idiot sometimes. Like, nothing can prepare you for having 70,000 followers on Twitter. You put out a tweet, you get a load of responses of people saying, "Yeah, I agree with you," or "Fuck you, you motherfucker, I hope you die." Like, nothing can prepare you for that. There's no training. No. You just have to learn to, you just have to adapt and learn what works and what doesn't, what you're willing to accept, what you can put up with, what you can't. You've got to get a thick skin. Some guys, like, for example, this thing about the node, right? I don't know if you follow NodeGate.
No.
So
no, I have not. I feel like that's something I need to read up on.
Listen, so I put a little confession out on Twitter a couple of days ago. I said, I've never set up a node, which wasn't strictly true. I had a year ago, but I never done anything with it. But I kept hearing this stuff about people saying, you're a second-class citizen. If you don't have a node, you don't verify your transactions. And I'd always been intimidated by it. I'm not technical. I was like, this sounds scary. I'm kind of happy with my hardware wallet. Did nothing with it. Anyway, so I've put it out there that, look, I've not done it, and this is the reason why, blah, blah, blah. Now, I could very easily find out how to set up a node. It's very, very fucking easy. I can go online and follow the tools and resources, but thinking about how my podcast works, I was like, I'll be transparent. I'll go, look, I haven't done it like this, and this is why. And I'm going to document my process, which I've gone through. But I've been fucking relentlessly insulted, trolled, and memed since that oh, he doesn't know how to set up a node. He doesn't know the difference. Like, people just fucking going at you. So you've just got to develop this thick skin. And if you can't, and by the way, there's been a couple of times where I'm like, this is fucking bullshit. I can't do this anymore. Like, I nearly quit the podcast about 6 months ago. I was chatting, well, maybe 3 months ago. I don't know when it was. It gets too much. Now I'm like, whatever. There are people who are going to troll. I troll. So I'm just kind of waffling on right now, but what I'm saying, the whole experience is very, very strange. It's humbling. It's so humbling, that people care enough. When someone creates a meme, when someone's trolling you and being really offensive,
it means
they care enough about what you're doing to do that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, I don't know, it's humbling. That's really humbling. But the experience is weird, and like, I don't know where all the shit will go. Maybe in a year I'll be back to being an absolute nobody. Maybe in a year I'll have 200,000 followers and a couple of podcasts and more success. I honestly don't know, but it's a very weird experience. And what I would say is, like, I can't fucking imagine what it's like for like true famous people who get fucking the most terrible abuse all day, every day. I can't imagine. But yeah, look, I'm humbled by the whole thing. I'm so fucking grateful. I'm desperate not to fuck it up, but I probably will. And yeah, we'll see where it all goes.
That's right.
That's the amazing thing about this space, though, is that for and it's not just crypto, obviously, but it's nice that you can find that family of people that even when there's trolls, who will support you and who's got your back, and you can always turn to that. And sometimes when real life really gets shitty, the internet is a wonderful place, and sometimes it's just the opposite. It's a cool thing to be able to build that community online and actually have people that support you and care for your opinions. And sometimes every opinion is going to have somebody who disagrees with it, and oftentimes the most unpopular opinions are the most important ones. So what do you feel has been the biggest challenge in trying to maintain your personal opinions and integrity in the face of all the haters and all the trolls? Is it hard to like stick with what you believe?
The hardest thing has been trying to stick with what my goal is. So, and my approach, like I think people generally respect the fact I know about marketing, right? I understand marketing. Therefore, I've developed a brand and an MO, right? I sometimes ask questions when I'm interviewing someone that I know the answers for, right? I know the answer, but I ask it because I want the question answered so somebody listening who might not know the answer can be helped. So I've kind of developed this brand and persona of someone who is technically illiterate and is kind of, a bit stupid and ask stupid questions. But the reality is, it's like I put some tweets out today. I was like, if I really wanted to start a node, I could do it. I learned how to use Audacity and GarageBand to edit podcasts. My website's really fucking good, and I did it myself. I edit the code for SEO and tracking. Like, I can figure this stuff out, but I can't help anyone by just figuring stuff out and not telling anyone. But what I can do is be entirely transparent. But in managing that as a brand, what I have to do is take on all this hate where people say he's a moron, he's an idiot, he's cringeworthy, he doesn't know what he's doing, why do people I have to take all that on. I have to take that 5% of morons on to get to the other 95% who get value from it and enjoy it. And I get hundreds of every month I get hundreds of DMs and emails where people say thank you for your work, I really appreciate it. So that's been really hard, maintaining that and staying above the radar and doing what I do. So that's been really hard. The other thing that's been hard is that I made a decision when I got my first invoice that I was going to be very transparent about my numbers. Like, in a space like full of scams and scammers and bullshit, I said, you know what, I'm going to do these income reports every month, transparently show what I'm earning, where it's come from, so people know, right? What actually happened with the podcast then became quite successful, that the numbers were quite good, right? I mean, when you're invoicing $40,000 a month for a podcast, that's good. Mm-hmm. Ignoring the fact I have high costs because I try and do the interviews in person, that without doubt triggers certain people. There are certain people who just do not like other people having any form of success, whether it's recognition or financial. It eats at them. It drives that green frog inside of them. So what's happened with that? It's actually been like two things. I know those income reports have actually inspired people to do podcasts. I know that because they've told me, and that's great. But also it's triggered some people, and they just fucking hate me now. They just, whatever I do, they fucking hate me. They will relentlessly come at me. And that has been really hard. Even when You got to have a thick skin. You know, I remember once I was on
Still got feelings.
Yeah, of course. And when people are like, fuck you, it can ruin your day. I had this one time where, because I agreed to interview Peter Risen and people hate him, I got a bunch of shit about it. I got on this flight to Hong Kong, got off. Like, my phone nearly went into meltdown when I got off the plane with alerts. I was on top of Reddit, people telling me I was a fucking scam, like all this bullshit. And I was like, Jesus, this is a lot. Like, this is high pressure. It's tough, and this is hard to take. But I'm managing. I'm getting better at managing it. I'm getting better at controlling my own emotions, and running with it. But there are a couple of the hard things that have come with it.
Well, I think it shows that dedication pays off in the end, man. You put in
hard work.
Effort.
Look, and with all these fuckers, I always say to them, look, fucking come at me. There's no way you can say I've not worked hard at this. I've traveled I must have, in the last, since I've done this podcast, I must have done 60 or 70 flights. I've been to the States like 20 times. I've been out to Tokyo twice. Like, I've dedicated to doing the interviews in person. I've bought the equipment. I've had a day where I get up in New York at 5 a.m. I catch a flight to Washington. I do an interview. From there, I get another flight and I go to Florida. I do an interview. 2 days later, I get a flight, 5-hour flight to San Francisco, and I'm doing 2 interviews. Like, and on the plane, I'm preparing the interview. When I land, I'm publishing. Like, I've fucking worked, right? I've really worked. You know, when these people come at me, I'm like, well, chill out. You're just sat there in your fucking pants, grating a meat. You ain't doing shit. You come at me as much as you want.
Exactly. And I think the more that you are secure with yourself, and the one of the main reasons we get all this, or you get this, or people in the position of what we do gets this type of treatment is, there's a couple of reasons. I think one is just plain old jealousy, you know, and the reason it hurts us so much is we're fucking human. Okay. And we love doing what we do, and we put everything, heart and soul and body, into what we do. And when you do that and you get negative feedback, I don't care how constructive the feedback is or how destructive it is, it fucking hurts, because it where you fucking bleed in your heart.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? You can get like 10 really positive comments and emails and DMs. You get one negative wanker come through, and it ruins your day.
It does.
And you say about being secure, like, certain things I'm insecure about, and like, I've always been open. Like, I've always been transparent. I don't hide. I don't try and pretend to be somebody I'm not. I say I'm technically illiterate, blah, blah, blah. I am insecure about certain things, right? And, you know, when somebody attacks that, it's like, fuck. But I think over time, what I think is this will make me stronger and better at what I do. So that's the hope, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, the consistency that we share, the consistency that we put out, right? And being ourselves. See, it's easier to be yourself than it is to try and be who you're not, because when you're trying to be who you're not, it's harder to keep up with where you left off. But when you're putting yourself out there in true fashion, who you truly are, it cannot be challenging ever to be that person, because it's you, right? So when people get to know you as the individual and get past all the little idiosyncrasy bullshit things and issues that they have, and accept you for who you are, which is what we put out there, then you've achieved the ultimate, right? At that point.
Yeah. And you know what? I surround myself with good people, and a couple of people very early on, you know, people I can just go to and say, look, this is happening, or this situation. But a couple of people early on said, when a lot of people are coming at you, you are doing something right. You can't please everyone, but you're doing something right. So I always think if people are really coming at me hard, I'm like, okay, I'm doing something right. And I just have to like reinforce that into myself.
Sure. Because you're striking nerves, and they believe what you're saying. And because they believe what you're saying, it causes that backlash, right? Whether it's a backlash or whether it's a positive response, because somebody believed what you said, that's what caused their response. So that's another thing to keep in mind too.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? Like, it is what it is. Would I swap this out? No. Can I take those challenging times? Yeah. Ultimately, I do self-reflect sometimes and try and improve, and like try and identify if I'm being a hypocrite, which I can be at times. But ultimately, look, people like what I'm doing. If they stop liking what I'm doing, then I'll stop it. But right now, people like it. You know, I just crossed 2 million downloads, which I'm so proud of. So I'm just going to keep
going. So awesome. Congratulations on that,
Thank
brother.
you.
Congratulations.
Appreciate
So, you know, Peter, this has been amazing. I'd love to keep going. We have another podcast scheduled here shortly.
How long have we done?
Probably about an hour and 15-ish,
Wow.
hour and
That
20.
just went like that.
Yeah,
Didn't
it was
it?
like it was right over.
It was.
We're gonna have to have a number 2 because there's, I mean, there's so much shit we didn't even cover that we were gonna cover.
Our number 2, if it doesn't happen between now and the time we go hunting, then hunting is either going to be our number 2 or our number 3.
Well,
so,
you know what I told you just the other day? I know a few spots where I go hunting where there's 4G up on the very tip top of the mountain.
yeah,
So I
we
think,
can do it live.
At the very least, we're gonna have to do a little live stream from the top.
That would be sick.
I would be mad keen for that. Totally keen for that. Like I'm in.
Consider
we
it.
could do that shit right now. I mean, we don't have to be hunting to be in the mountains. We can do that shit.
Right.
But listen, look, I'll bring my studio with me. I'll bring it. But like, listen, you know, I get offered a lot of interviews. I turn a lot down because I don't think I have a lot of value to add. I prefer to ask the questions, but I've really enjoyed this. You ever want to do it again, just give me a shout. I'm in.
Oh yeah,
Awesome.
we absolutely will. You know, we love it because like we said before, we just like to experience the community and talk about the people and just kind of talk about your experiences. And a lot of people just end up talking just about one project or something the whole time. And we just like to just hang out and have a good time, and it goes where it goes. You know, it's less structured and it's just more relaxed in my opinion. So
Look how quick it went.
yeah, I know, right? I mean, this happens so many times. Like we could just talk all day, you know. It would
Right.
pretty much everybody we've ever interviewed. We could just talk all day and have a good time. So
And do you know what? The best bits where we weren't talking about Bitcoin. We should just not talk about Bitcoin. Like the one I did with
exactly. You know, you talk about getting hate for having somebody on the show that people don't like. I put a tweet out to Nuriel, and he hasn't answered me. Well, obviously, I didn't expect he would. But I said, Nuriel, come on the show. Let's see if we can talk about anything but crypto for an hour. I just want to see what happens. You know, I want to see if we can keep him off of money and talk about. I don't know anything about the guy other than that he hates Bitcoin. So, you know, see what happens.
The more people see things, I think.
Yeah.
Well, anytime you want, guys, I'm in.
Awesome.
We'll make
Thank
it
you
happen.
so much, Peter, for joining us today.
We'll reschedule number 2 here soon.
Right on. You sir, have a great day, and thank you again.
You guys take care. Really appreciate this.
Awesome.
Likewise,
Same.
Likewise.
Peace.
Take care, guys.
See you,
Bye.
man.
Wow.
That was fucking amazing.
Dude.
Well, I mean, here we go. We've just done our first full video podcast. I'm just going to dump it out there like this.
Yeah.
Totally raw, totally uncut, totally unedited, just straight to YouTube.
Oh my God.
Just perfect.
Yeah. No, do it. Do it.
All
Video
right.
and all. This is
Here you go,
amazing.
guys. I hope you love it. Here it is. This is the first
Fuck.
one.
This is crazy.
Yeah, man. I can't wait.
Oh,
Can you?
it was so uplifting and so positive to hear all of this. I mean, it was so personal, the conversation, and it just that connection is so cool. It's hard to describe. It really is. I didn't want to end it, but I gotta piss like a horse.
That was good. But before you go piss, the first time that I saw Peter ever speak was his morning coffee episode with Euclid and Tamara.
Okay.
And there was something about that was the first time I ever heard his podcast or anything. I mean, that wasn't his podcast. It was the first time I ever actually like listened to him or heard anything. And it just seemed so natural and just so laid back, and like he likes to have a good time and just chill. And
right.
And something about that made me want to go find this podcast and listen to him and his voice. I mean, I always love listening to somebody with a British accent because it's different, I guess, than what's around here, and so it's more enjoyable to listen to. But
yeah,
there's something about it that when his podcast comes on and he just starts talking, it's just you just kind of get lost in it. You know, it's melodic.
It's like it is. Amazing. No, I hear you. So yeah, crazy podcast today. This is awesome. We got another one to record here pretty quick.
Yeah, we're recording with Lawrence in a half hour. Maybe I'll push this out there right now and just publish it right now.
That'd be sick. So guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching on YouTube. This is going to be a crazy episode. I hope you guys all enjoy it because I enjoyed the living shit out of it. Let me tell you what. And
I cannot wait. Number 2.
Going frickin' hunting. I can see it now. Peter McCormack in the campfire hunting in Montana. That would be sick.
And like you said, if it gets to the end and he can't You know, if you can't pull the triggers, then so what? We had an amazing time.
Right. It's
Hanging out.
not about the hunt at that point.
It's about the experience. You know, this is experience the community for a reason.
When you go hunting with friends, when you go hunting with people, it's more about the time spent together than it is the kill. The kill is just a byproduct of that time spent together. So the bonding and camaraderie and the experiencing nature and being out and being grounded with the world and with everything around you is so uplifting, and it's so regenerating of your soul. It's not, unless you've experienced it, you cannot relate. So on that note, I'm looking forward to that. Let's close this thing out. Guys, you have a great day, and we will see you on the next one.
Yeah. Take it easy.
Peace.